100 West Jeffries in that block or that neighborhood. I'll start by giving you a quick rundown. First of all, probably foremost, most importantly anyway, is our deputy, and I don't know if you've been given his information, but you will get that today, is Augustine Gonzalez, badge 1428. He is doing fine. He was released very early this morning from Banner. We want to thank Banner for their care and their treatment of our deputy. He's home resting. He has an injury to his lower calf area, but he's doing just fine. To Mr. Altamirano, you'll see his photo up here on the screens. His date of birth was November 23rd, 1984. He's 39 years of age. Gabriel Angel Altamirano, we are going to find him, and we want him arrested for what we know was nothing more than an ambush of our deputy. He made threats at a domestic violence call yesterday, not just to those individuals at that call, but he made threats that he was going to get in an officer-involved shooting, and he was going to assault our deputies. Well, that did occur, and we know that, and that was not something we're going to tolerate. So we ask your help in locating him. He broke into some homes yesterday. We learned that as well, so the community in that area needs to still be on the alert. Lawrence Elementary, we're working closely with their security teams to make sure that those kids are safe and that that whole area is safe. You know, fortunately nobody else was injured or hurt, but he's certainly capable of doing this. He's got a violent history past, and so we want to make sure he's found quickly. Other than that, I'll take whatever questions you have.
What you please elaborate on his past? I mean, this is clearly a picture from a couple of years ago, so he's been guessed in jail.
Well, he has. He's been charged. He's got a criminal history of weapons violations, drug possession, ag assaults, and various thefts.
Do you know anything about his history that might suggest where to look for him?
We know he has a lot of associates in that neighborhood, family and friends, and so we're hoping that if any of them see him or know of his whereabouts, they call us or call 88 Crime. They're plugged into this as well.
The suspect that you guys currently have, has he gave any insight on where this?
I cannot talk to any statements he did or did not make.
And how is that domestic violence victim doing today?
She's fine. We're staying in touch with her and her family and friends. That was I'm sure, pretty terrifying situation for her, and so we're going to make sure she's whatever she needs, we're going to accommodate.
Are you still focusing on the area in which you were searching in yesterday? Or are
Yes.
you expanding that beyond?
Yeah, that area, that neighborhood, yes, sir.
Can you elaborate on what you mean by, that this was an ambush and that he had made?
He
talked about, having talked about doing an officer-involved shooting.
At the domestic, remember this domestic violence call came in at 10 a.m. Our deputies handled that call where he had already left, and he returned to the area almost 2 hours later before the shooting occurred. Our deputy was in the area doing some paperwork and recognized the suspect vehicle driving back into the area when he went after him. Once he got behind him, the individual crashed into a citizen who had nothing to do with this, and they took off running on foot. Our deputy chased them. In chasing them, he didn't realize that hiding in the bushes, like the coward this man was, he fired multiple times at our deputy. Our deputy's lucky to be alive.
So this was the man who fired at
Yes.
the deputy? And
Yes,
not
that's
the
our belief.
suspect, not the suspect who's in custody right now?
The suspect in custody was with him.
Sheriff, you've probably seen the union has suggested short staffing left the deputy in Greater Jefferson.
I'm not going to get into the politics of this. If they really want to comment on that, where were their comments in 2016 or 2020 when the staffing levels went down to 30%? 30% we lost. I built that staffing levels up. If you want to know, do we need more staff? Absolutely, we need more staff. But that's a battle for me and the Board of Supervisors and the county administrator. It's nothing else other than that. Playing politics with an officer-involved shooting, I can't even talk to you about how low that is.
Yesterday, the initial community alert sent out by the Sheriff's Department had classified this man as 20s. Now we're seeing that he's 39 or well into his 30s. Do you think that may have played a part into why people possibly didn't call in and recognize this individual, kind of expecting someone in the 20s?
You know, I don't know that. You know, they're giving, they're giving a description as best they get as they're pursuing this individual. People seeing him briefly. You know, our investigation has learned this is the individual we're looking for.
Are you, go ahead. Are you assuming at this point that the only two people involved are this man and the suspect in custody?
That is correct. Yes, that's our belief. Yes.
So could you give us details like the age and name of the person who's in custody right now?
You know, we'll get that to you. I don't have that in front of me, but we'll get that to you. Yes. He was arrested and booked in our jail last night.
Other unrelated charges?
Yeah.
Some
Okay.
warrants.
He had some outstanding warrants. Today, right now, as we sit here and speak, our investigators, actually, you have to understand, I think I have Sergeant Magos from TPD's PIO here to answer other questions. This is a PCRIT, Pima Regional Critical Incident Team's investigation. The criminal part of this, we have backed out. It is for TPD to answer to some of those things. They have to keep the integrity of their case protected as well. I know, though, that they are right now speaking with the county attorney in getting more warrants.
So when Gabriel Angel is taken into custody, could you speak to the charges that he might be?
Attempted homicide. Yep. There's multiple charges, trust me. Breaking into people's homes, armed, those types of things. But right now, for me, this is nothing more than attempted murder of our deputy. And he will be caught, he will be charged for that.
Does it have an enhancement because it's law enforcement?
I hope so. Yep.
So you're saying he shot at the deputy multiple times?
Multiple times,
and
yes.
Hit the deputy in the leg once?
Once, yeah.
So the deputy wasn't wounded anywhere else?
No, no.
Do we know the relation between the suspect and the domestic violence? Was there any relationship there between?
Ex-girlfriend.
Ex-girlfriend?
Mhm.
This guy who's on the screen?
This gentleman, yeah. Mhm. I use that term loosely.
And the other suspect who's in custody? A
He,
friend?
we think he's just a friend, but I don't have that specific details.
Was the person that you have in custody a part of the original domestic violence call?
We believe he was there too, yes.
I know you mentioned yesterday that deputies and officers were going door to door, making sure that you try to find the suspect. Is that going to be the same case today, going to door, trying to find the suspect, or how's that going to go like this?
Yeah, I don't want to get into it. We have a number of detectives in the area working the case, our fugitive unit, others. We've gotten assistance from multiple agencies, the marshals, others have offered assistance. So I don't want to get into the strategies deployed there. I will say this, the area is being patrolled heavily. Yesterday, I think the number was we had deployed something like just our own team, some 70 officers into that investigative efforts yesterday just to find this individual. Great amount of resources, but I'm sorry you don't get to attack our deputies. We will find you. We will arrest you.
So yesterday there was a chopper and there were a couple of other resources. Are those the same resources today?
I don't want to get into that strategy. They could. If the investigators on the ground need those resources again, they've got them. They know what's available to them. I have to think TPD had their helicopters up for us, their air support teams. We had a number of other agencies who immediately offered up resources for us and participated. And I owe a great amount of gratitude for that too. That's part of this whole regional concept of policing, is that we recognize that as a community, it can't just be one agency to keep us all safe. This community is pretty sprawling. You've got 1 million people that crosses all kinds of jurisdictional boundaries. We need to work well with our partners, and we need to assist them as quickly and as readily as they can come to assist us.
So is the area and the school, are they still on lockdown?
The lockdown situation of the school is up to the school. We have our school resource officers in that school and at that, assisting with them with whatever they need. They know what our plans are for that operation, and we're there to help them with whatever they need.
So could you speak a little bit about how the school kind of handled the situation yesterday? Do you have that information?
I would really like that to go to the schools to say, because I don't know what strategies or policies they put into place there. I just know that we were there to assist them, to help them get whatever they need, get those kids, I think it was around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the bells rang and the kids are getting out of there, and we help them get those kids home safely. We just want to make sure that that school is well protected and that they know that they can call on us for anything, absolutely anything.
This was a domestic violence case, and yesterday we also learned about another case where a boyfriend assaulted his ex-girlfriend, and now she's about to be disconnected, so her organs are harvested. Do you know anything about that? Do you have any comments on that case as well?
Yes, I'm trying to think of the young lady's last name, but it's Zaria, if I'm not mistaken. Moreno. Yes, she's a young 22-year-old who is currently in the hospital on life support. We offer our prayers for her and her family and our support to them. I can't talk too much about the medical portion of this. We do know that roughly around 10:30 to midnight, sometime in that time frame, this lady was transported by her boyfriend, friend, whoever he was, to Drexel Heights Fire House, and Drexel Heights Fire found her in the car and tried to revive her, transported her to the hospital where she is now. He's been charged, I believe, with ag assault, but we're still investigating that case. There's some details there that we question, but we're looking into it.
So the suspect in that case was arrested and then he was released, is that
Correct. He was, I believe he's arrested for aggravated assault, domestic violence. The courts do what they do. I can't, sometimes I wish we could just lock these guys up forever, but the reality is I don't have that control, and that's probably a good thing. We'll let the courts deal with those issues. We think there's other charges pending, but we have to run the course.
So he's not in custody right now?
That, to my knowledge, he is not. He's been released.
Do you know why it was
Yes,
a
he's been released.
2,500 bond?
I'm sorry?
Do you know why it was a 2,500 bond?
You'd have to ask the courts. I have no idea.
Can you talk about, on average, how many domestic violence calls your deputies respond to on average per week or per
Wow.
day?
You know, if I was prepared for those numbers, I know we have them, but I tell you right now, we see domestic violence probably every single day. There's got to be a call almost every day, if not 2 or 3 or 4 calls every day. It wouldn't surprise me if we're well into the thousands of domestic violence calls every year. It just,
It's a large share of what your deputies do.
absolutely, and those are some of the you know, because there's so much emotions involved, those are really just highly dangerous calls for our teams to be responding to, and we know that, and we train for it. But it seems more and more we're seeing the violence is getting even greater. Murder charges, assault charges that lead to murder charges.
Sheriff, not suggesting this is on the equal priority to the other thing we're discussing here, but can you elaborate a little bit on the discipline in the missing working dog case?
Yes, Damon, our pup, we're fortunate he's still with us. As you know, you were a big part of that, and I, again, thank you for that, in locating him and getting out the word. But we then subsequently performed an investigation internally, and we believe we've got now, there's 2 individuals, the handler, Kimberly Austin, and a sergeant, Tony Taylor. Both are on admin leave with pay, pending termination.
Can you elaborate on how the dog got loose?
We believe that the dog got loosed at another location than we had originally been told. You know, all of this is foilable. I urge you to ask for the public records on those cases, but without going into too much detail at this time, we believe we were lied to multiple times by these 2 individuals, and we're just not going to tolerate that. You can't risk the life of that. You just look at that pup. FOIA the case, you'll see what went on there, and it's just a shame that you're supposed to be held to a higher standard. We expect a more responsible individual to care for that defenseless animal, if you will. And that just didn't happen. And it just, the neglect there, there's so many emotions in my head because I just really feel for animals that get, neglected or harmed. It's just, we have so many cases, animal abuse cases. We're just working. In a few minutes, I'm going to have our animal cruelty task force in here to talk about issues you've covered out in the Summit area, and I'm working with Jan Lesher and our county administrator to get with DEQ. I don't recall which news team it was, but somebody was out there in that neighborhood, and standing behind them was just these dump sites. We're going to get DEQ and whoever it needs to get out there and clean that area up, and I mean quickly. That shouldn't be, anybody should have to live like that. And we're going to get in that area and give a little more attention to that area. We're increasing our staffing numbers into our animal cruelty task force. We're going to try to help that situation, but we're also working with a number of our community partners. The Equine Voices, I think, was the one who alerted me to this problem, and so we're going to work closely with those teams too. People think of our animal cruelty task force as a task force of all these cops out there doing these investigations, and really it's not. It's not like PCRIT, which is a task force. This is a task force that's designed to come in once a month and share information. That will be today. They meet monthly, and different agencies will share their cases, and we try to work with different people, our veterinarians, our animal activist groups, those community groups that can help us. But it is a widespread problem. I hate to paint a broad brush across the Summit neighborhood because I think they've had 6 incidents in the last couple of years, where we have other areas that have had 12 incidents in the last few years. So it really is countywide. This is a big county, you know that. And that's just one problem of many. I think, people don't, I think they do recognize that this job doesn't just go to domestic violence. We see the victimization there of those individuals who are just really taken advantage of and are quite defenseless. But I also can't help but think of the 3 little ones we lost here. We have a 9-year-old who sat in a house of squalor and died at the hands of his dad, who's supposed to protect him. We have a 4-year-old who we thought was reportedly a drowning victim, and we found out that this little 4-year-old girl was brutally sexually assaulted, and we believe that's at the hands of the father too, and we're currently looking for him too. We'll put out a media release for you. We'll ask for your help because this individual's on the lam as well, and we need him in custody. You cannot hurt somebody defenseless, harmless, whether it's a puppy or a 2-year-old or 4-year-old or 9-year-old. You're the dad, for Christ's sakes. You're supposed to protect these little ones. You're supposed to help them have a future, and it's just taken from them. That shouldn't be happening.
If you could talk a little bit about, you said that the suspect here has a history, has been booked before. Do those past charges include domestic violence charges?
I don't have the actual charges in front of me. It could be, so we'll get you that information. But I just have the charges as weapons violations, drug possession, and aggravated assault, and multiple thefts.
Curious whether he was, if you know at this point what firearm he was using, and if he obtained it illegally, if he was, had a history of domestic violence, if he may have not been allowed to have a firearm.
The investigation will look into all of those things. Right now, I don't believe he has any warrants outstanding that are firearms related, but he does have some warrants outstanding. So the investigative unit, remember, we kind of stepped back and let PCRIT do their thing. They have all that background information, so maybe we can get them they can get that to you.
Gotcha. And just to be clear, when the initial call was made, it was kind of wrapped up, closed case, domestic violence call was...
Those calls are never wrapped up and closed, no.
Okay.
What happens was the deputy arrives on scene, he takes the information, it was reported to him that these 2 men came there. Mr. Altamirano pointed a weapon at one of the ladies at the house, made threats that he's going to kill the ex-girlfriend, and that he's going to get in a shooting with the cops, and he left before we arrived. We get there, we take the information, and now we start our investigation. Deputies are starting to look for him, they're in the area, and ultimately he shows himself in his vehicle, and the incident unfolds from there.
Is there a vehicle description, or did he abandon that one?
He abandoned it. I believe TPD has towed it. Yeah, it was involved in the accident. Mhm.
So in the initial domestic violence call, how many people were in the home? So you said it was Mr.
We-
Gabriel Angel, then there was the ex-girlfriend, it's the other suspect. Who
The
else?
only thing I know, and it may change because I've not been briefed fully on it, was that there was the ex-girlfriend and her sister were involved, engaged with these two men. Mr. Altamirano pointed the gun at one of the two ladies and threatened to kill him.
And
So-
the other,
Good.
sorry, the other suspect was also related? I mean, is he family, is he a friend? The other
I
suspect?
don't believe that. I don't know that, but yeah, I've not heard that.
Can you clarify the threats? Was that something called into you guys, or something when your deputies arrived on scene that they were threatening that he was going to shoot them?
You know, I don't have the 911 call information in front of me. I just know that the deputies were responding to a domestic violence call. And at some point in time, they learned that this man was armed and that he made threats.
But we don't know, like, in what context those threats were made.
No, and I don't have that in front of me, no. Anything else? The other cases you got enough information on, those other cases you asked for, we'll give the 4-year-old case is just, the little 4-year-old girl, she deserves justice. That is a horrific case. The forensics doctors and the OME and medical examiner's office, they're working hard with us on this, as is the county attorney. That's a monster. You're not a dad, you're a monster, and we will release that to you. That will get a mini release to you, but we really want him caught too.
So she died as the result of the abuse?
We believe that, but there's a lot of work still to do in that regard. We know the sexual assaults occurred, and we will, I believe we already have warrants for those, for 2 counts, and so we are looking for him. He's been on the lam for, I don't know, a couple of months. When he stole the Tucson City truck a few months ago, fleeing us because we wanted to talk to him about the matter. At that time, we didn't know what we now know. And so, yeah, there's a reason he ran.
Curious about the little girl that died in the hot car in Marana not too long ago.
Yeah.
Was that your-
No, that's Miranda, and I can't really speak to their case, but I will say that's just that was on the heels of our cases, the little 4-year-old and the little 9-year-old. It's all right in that same time frame. It just, you know, you see these things, and I know you guys are the same way as I am. You just, your heart just gets in your throat. You can't believe that these little ones, you don't want anybody to be a victim of violent crime, but my goodness, these are babes. They want you to, they look to you to help them, to just keep them safe, and that's just, yeah, those monsters need to be dealt with.
Has your department responded to similar calls where, you know, somebody gets left in a hot car?
You know, I'm sure we have. You know, you talk to our child abuse detectives, and they are, heck, it's probably 30 years ago I was in child crimes, and it was just horrific to see the number of kids that you deal with every day, thousands of them that are just, they're broken, and it's sad because I don't know that they can ever be fixed. They're at that little of an age, and so there's so many resources that are needed for that, so much support. Our child welfare programs, you know, they're probably hurting in staffing, and they too could use some support. We could talk for days on these cases. They were bad then. They're probably, if not as bad, worse today. We just, as a society, I think we need to do better, and it's just really hard. Again, staffing comes into that play too. How much work can you get done when you're getting thousands of cases poured on you a year, and you've got to do something with these cases. You can't just let them sit there. And that's probably the same. I hate to speak for our Department of Child Welfare, but they're probably in the same situation.
Clarification question here. You said the suspect broke into homes. Was that during the time frame of 10 and 12? Or was that later in the day?
You know, I don't have that, but I believe it was right after he ran from us, and he knows he's being chased, and he's
Yeah.
looking for stuff, looking for ways to hide.
Just right back onto sort of the task force and, you know, how it was not too long ago when the Joint Regional Task Force was first set up to kind of investigate various departments. That is still currently only local jurisdictions like police departments and the sheriff's department, as opposed to, like, would you include federal departments like Border Patrol in those?
You know, first of all, Border Patrol, FBI, all of our federal partners, although they're not involved in these matters because it is a local regional task force, it's Pima County's regional task force. Certainly if they have an officer-involved shooting incident, they call us, we talk to our regional partners. It's a big commitment, particularly if you think of your Oro Valley, who's 20 miles north of here, and we have an officer-involved shooting along the border, and Border Patrol calls us. That's a big commitment for Oro Valley to send. Think of the size of that agency. You know, I may have 1,500 people. They have 100 people. It's just a big commitment. So we try to keep it local, but we offer our services to the outside agencies that aren't a part of this. It's not that they don't want to be a part of it. We oftentimes get called to go and help them in investigations. We have a large area of Indian reservations, the Native American reservations, Pascua Yaqui, Tohono, and we know that they too need help. But they rely on the FBI per their jurisdictional rules, but they also know that we'll step in and help them. Pascua Yaqui comes out to our PCRIT calls all the time.
Because, you know, for example, like Maricopa's police department, sheriff's department, did its own investigations of things like Southwest Key allegations of abuse and things like that. Would that be within your jurisdiction as well?
So I can't really speak to our northern agencies. I know that in 2022, when we started putting this together, actually we thought about it in 2021 in March, but it came around, took a year to get everybody. There's a lot of lawyerese, legalese, things like that you got to get done. And so we got all the contract stuff and started in March of 2022. While we were doing that, the other agencies in the northern valleys were still trying to settle their differences and who's in charge. And you know, there's a lot of. I'm just proud of our region because all of the chiefs in this valley, every one of them put their egos aside and said, "We need to do this. We need to find a way to get this done." And we did. We provided the training, we provided the resources, and I believe still up north, of course, you know, that's a big area. They got 31 different law enforcement agencies there, so they have their struggles. But we were the forefront. We were actually a national model. We have a lot of other agencies outside of the state of Arizona who call us and say, "How did you accomplish this? What is it you do?" We brought in the Los Angeles Police Department, Los Angeles Self Department to help train us because they actually had this model before we ever even looked at it. Okay, if you need anything else, our PIOs are here to help you and assist you. Data, flyers, information like that, let us know. Okay.